Migrants being expelled from New York. What's happening? In the global context, migration has become a complex challenge for major cities. From the bustling streets of London to the diverse neighborhoods of Sydney and the historical areas of Rome, the trend of pushing migrants out of urban centers is on the rise. Cities that were once symbols of hope and opportunity are now facing increasing pressure. Whether the reasons are economic, social, or political, many cities are struggling to manage the influx of migrants. In the United States, New York has always stood out as an immigration hub. With approximately 5.9 million immigrants between 2018 and 2022, the city has become a top destination for those seeking opportunities. However, this diversity has brought unprecedented pressure. Factors such as limited resources, housing shortages, and strain on public services have forced New York to implement controversial new policies to ease the burden of the migrant population. Not everyone knows that since 2022, the city has welcomed over 200,000 migrants. By regulation, New York is required to provide shelter to anyone who requests it, a rule not many other cities have to follow. This has brought unique challenges and raised concerns among residents. Beginning in 2024, New York has officially begun implementing measures to expel migrants from shelters. According to a report, in early 2024, New York was receiving up to 600 migrants daily who were seeking shelter. By October 2023, the city had spent over $2 billion on refugees, and this figure is expected to rise to $12 billion over the next 3 years. The city administration has had to find ways to limit the provision of shelters. In May 2024, a new policy was implemented, requiring migrants to leave shelters within 30 to 60 days. Families with children are exempt from this policy, but other migrants must comply with the city's requirements if they wish to stay. This policy has sparked a strong backlash from advocacy groups and the public. Many argue that it is an inhumane and unrealistic measure for migrants, especially when homelessness is on the rise. However, Mayor Eric Adams remains steadfast in his decision, stating that the policy is necessary to manage the massive influx of migrants and ensure resources for those most in need. The financial burden that the migrant crisis has placed on New York is significant. As of July 2024, the city had spent nearly $5.5 billion on this crisis. Costs include housing, social services, IT, food, and healthcare. Although strong tax revenue from businesses and tourism has helped stabilize the budget post-pandemic, the city still has to bear the majority of the costs, absorbing an estimated 69%, while the state covers 30%, and the federal government contributes only 1%. Beyond the financial aspect, the policy shift has sparked a broader debate about the city's responsibility and humane treatment of migrants. Advocates argue that the new rules are too harsh and could lead to hardship and displacement for the most vulnerable. On the other hand, city officials contend that drastic measures are needed to manage the increasing influx of migrants and ensure resources for those most in need. The expulsion policy from shelters initially targeted adult migrants, with notices given 30 days before the policy took effect. In the first week, 250 migrants were affected. Those who wish to extend their stay can do so if they prove special circumstances, such as having signed a lease, undergoing serious medical procedures, or having a scheduled immigration hearing. While this policy has received support from some residents and officials, it has also raised concerns about the state of homelessness. The number of homeless people in New York City has reached its highest level since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Legal aid organizations have warned that the new policy could exacerbate this crisis, given the severe shortage of affordable housing. As the city tries to manage the situation, alternative solutions need to be considered to ensure that migrants are not left on the streets. The city needs to provide temporary housing, social services like job training and mental health support to help migrants transition to more stable living conditions. Additionally, cooperation with the federal government to return migrants to their home countries safely and with support could be a feasible solution. Another potential solution is to provide comprehensive support systems that go beyond temporary shelters, including affordable housing, job training programs, and mental health services. By promoting community engagement and reducing stigma against migrants, New York can work towards a more inclusive and sustainable environment for everyone. New York's story is not an isolated case, but reflects a global trend where cities grapple with the challenges posed by migrant populations. When facing these challenges, recognizing the contributions of immigrants to urban development is crucial. Only by addressing these issues comprehensively and sustainably can we build inclusive and thriving communities for the future. In this context, New York City's government is under increasing pressure to find effective and humane solutions to the migrant crisis. Expelling migrants from shelters raises questions not only about the effectiveness of this policy, but also about the city's ethics and responsibility in protecting vulnerable individuals. The responses from the public, advocacy organizations, and even ordinary citizens reflect a deep divide in opinions on this issue. Additionally, the migrants being expelled face an uncertain future. Without proper support, they risk falling into homelessness or being relocated to other cities without assurances of living conditions. This not only affects the migrants themselves, but also has negative impacts on the communities they move to, causing more complex social issues. The situation is further complicated as the influx of migrants continues to flood into New York, a city already overwhelmed by the number of people seeking shelter. Despite the expansion of the shelter system and the expenditure of billions of dollars, the city still cannot meet the growing demand. Efforts to build temporary shelters, such as tent cities, are only short-term solutions and cannot be sustained for long. Another factor contributing to the crisis is the socio-economic conflict between migrants and local residents. Although migrants contribute to the local economy through jobs like deliveries or street vending, their presence also provokes reactions from some residents. The strain on public services and resources, along with competition in the labor market, has caused tension and dissatisfaction within the community. The city administration has tried to relocate migrants to other areas within the state, but this effort has met with resistance from local officials. The situation becomes even more complicated when the policy of expelling migrants from New York could create pressure on other cities and lead to new conflicts. This is not a sustainable solution, but merely shifts the problem from one place to another. In light of the ongoing changes, it is clear that multidimensional coordination between city, state, and federal agencies is needed to address this crisis effectively. This includes providing immediate shelter solutions, addressing the underlying factors driving migration, and ensuring that migrants have access to the necessary support and services to integrate into the community. Moreover, a long-term strategy is needed to address the issues of migrants and homelessness. This could involve investing in affordable housing, developing training and employment programs for migrants, and building a robust support network to help them integrate into their new lives. At the same time, educating the community about diversity and the contributions of migrants can help reduce stigma and build a more inclusive environment. New York City, as one of the world's largest immigration hubs, is facing a significant challenge. The city's decisions and policies in the near future will not only affect the fate of thousands of migrants, but also shape how other cities globally perceive and deal with the issue of migration. New York's story is a powerful reminder of the complexity and challenges that come with managing the flow of migrants. To create a sustainable and fair solution, there needs to be a commitment not only from the city government, but also from the entire community, with the ultimate goal of building a city where everyone, regardless of origin or immigration status, has the opportunity to live, work, and thrive.